Marjorie Taylor Greene has absolutely been going off the deep end lately, and Trump's Mar-a-Lago search has not helped anything. Let me give you a quick, short breakdown if you're unfamiliar with the situation. Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago mansion was searched recently because he claimed to have turned over all of the top secret documents that he stole from the White House when he left. But it turns out he didn't turn over all the documents. He kept some, and they were so secure and so sensitive. This is like nuclear weapons plans level stuff. They were so sensitive. These are the types of documents that are never supposed to leave a secure bunker. There are no pictures of these documents in existence. You will not find them on the internet anywhere because people would die if foreign nations found out that we had some of this intel. That's how sensitive it is. Extremely sensitive. And Donald Trump just walked right out the door with them. So the FBI searched his Mar-a-Lago residence, found the documents, and all of Magaland completely melted down over it, including Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's the story in a nutshell. So let's take a look at what Marjorie Taylor Greene has been up to lately. She has a podcast, as it turns out. I didn't know this until fairly recently, and she's been saying some absolutely unhinged stuff on there, to say the least. Check this one out, early August 2022.
The Democrats want to hire 87,000 more IRS agents to what? Target conservatives. Yeah.
No, to target people who aren't paying enough in their taxes, or to make sure that people are paying their taxes properly. Why is this such a big deal? I just talked about a story recently where a bunch of Trump supporters are completely bent out of shape over the fact that Trump's Mar-a-Lago mansion was searched. And they've built up this whole conspiracy theory around the government trying to persecute Donald Trump. They believe there's a civil war here, and they're working the fact that Biden is hiring 80-something thousand new IRS agents. They're working that fact into the conspiracy theory. Listen to this.
Well, hey.
Hey.
Just getting ready for my IRS audit. I know this is about to come. Listen, I'm just like you. I've seen what happened to Trump.
So they're basically trying to start a new civil war. Like I said, I talked about that in the video that just released previously to this one. So if you want to see like the full video that we were just watching, just go to the previous one. Anyway, they're working this whole IRS agents thing into their whole conspiracy theory about how they're being persecuted by the government for having to pay taxes and for being conservative. These people live in a delusional world.
Conservatives, yeah, Trump donors, Trump voters, Republicans, small business owners.
Actually, just anybody who lives in the U.S. We all have to pay taxes. I don't like that any more than anybody else, but you know what? I'm the first one in line every year to pay my taxes. And you know why? I haven't talked about this much on my channel or anywhere, actually, for that matter, but I had a terminal illness 10 years ago. It was a very low chance that I was going to survive. I guess that would depend on your definition of very low. It was 40% survival rate. The illness that I had a 40% survival rate. This is before I did YouTube. This is when I was broke as dog. I didn't have a penny to my name. I worked at I think I worked at Burger King at the time when I first found out I had this illness. I lived in West Virginia, and I was on Medicaid. They were paying my health insurance. And I found out that I had this illness, and they sent me to a specialist, and they were giving me 13 pills per day plus a weekly injection. I had to stick it in my leg and inject myself with this stuff to basically cure me of this illness. And I started losing my hair. Seriously, I'm in the shower one day, and just handfuls of hair are coming out of my head. And I was itchy constantly. I was sick constantly. Felt like vomiting. I was dizzy 24/7 for 6 months. 6 months I did this. Medicaid paid. $115,000 for my treatment. $115,000. That's an amount of money I, to this day, have not seen in my life. That is an obscene amount of money. And I was cured. I was cured of it because I had Medicaid. I wouldn't have survived otherwise. And that, my friends, is why I am the first one in line to pay taxes every year. I enjoy paying taxes. I want to pay taxes so that the next person in line who's dealing with this exact situation doesn't have to worry about surviving, doesn't have to worry about whether or not they can even get the medicine in the first place. I pay my taxes every year with a smile on my face so that I can know that somebody on the other end can find out if they'll be part of that 40% that survives, rather than knowing they'll be part of the 100% who never got an opportunity to try treatment because they didn't have the money for it. But Marjorie Taylor Greene completely disagrees, thinks that it's seemingly a moral wrong to pay taxes, thinks that it's just another way to persecute people or something. Honestly, sad and disgusting that she always finds some way to weaponize everything against people who she views to be her enemy. Honestly sad. Let's step back a little and listen to that statement one more time.
What? Target conservatives. Yeah, Trump donors, Trump voters, Republicans, small business owners. I don't know if you refuse to bake a cake for some 5-year-olds coming out party with their new gender reveal. This is the kind of thing that's going to be going on.
Okay, 5-year-olds are not doing gender reveal parties, first of all. What 5-year-olds, what parents or what schools are trying to teach 5-year-olds that they're a different gender? This is a fabricated issue that is absolutely not happening, first of all. And second, why would the government care if somebody was doing any of that stuff? Why would anybody care? Why, like, she thinks that the IRS, or she's pretending to think at least, that the IRS is going to weaponize audits against people they don't like. You live in a fantasy land. We live in a society that has to pay taxes. That's just how this works. If you want roads and bridges, and if you want health care, let's say your daughter gets sick, or your niece or your nephew or whoever gets sick with an illness that has a 40% survival rate, do you want them to be able to get better? Or do you just want them to die? Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't give a shit. What she cares about is acting like she's persecuted by everybody around her and creating a sense of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. FUD is the acronym for this, and it's something that news and public figures do constantly. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
It's going to be going on. They're going to target you. They're going to target you if you refuse to host a wedding in your restaurant for I don't know, who knows, with a drag queen story time for children or whatever. They're going to target you because they hate you. You're the political enemy.
No to all of that. No, I don't have any political enemies. I don't view the world like that. I want everybody to succeed. I want everybody to have health care, whether you're a Trump supporter or not. I want you to have the ability to get treatment for something if you're sick. Whether you're a Trump supporter or not, I want you to have the ability to get a good job and rise yourself out of poverty. I want you to have those opportunities. Everybody, period, across the board. Marjorie Taylor Greene, on the other hand, she does have people who she considers to be her enemies, her political enemies. This mindset of this otherizing thing, this black and white, good versus evil type of thing, this mindset that she finds herself in, is the exact mindset that cults use to manipulate and control people, and it is the exact mindset that led the Nazis to do what they did during World War II. The exact mindset. She has no idea. And even if she did have an idea, would she care? I don't know. There's another clip I want to show you from her podcast, but before we watch it, let me give you a little context to it leading up to that. So she went to the jail of the January 6th defendants or whatever. She went there with Louis Gohmert, of all people. Oh, my God. Anyway, if you know, Louis Gohmert. I'm not going to go down that road right now. Anyway, she went there with Louis Gohmert mid-May 2022 to talk about how persecuted the January 6 people are. Oh, my God, they're so mistreated by society. Oh, listen to what she had to say about them.
To match them. We have been denied the ability to go back and have a tour. We've been denied even a phone call and an answer back. So that's why we're here today at her office to say you need to give us a visit. You owe this to all of the people that we represent across the country. And then this city needs cleaned up. There's homeless people all over the city. Crime is out of control.
Dude, who is she talking to? And are these issues even in their wheelhouse? Like, is this something that whoever she's talking to could even fix? I don't know. She's giving awfully broad demands. I don't think a single person that she could possibly be talking to would take care of all of these things.
And it has a jail that is clearly a dangerous place for people to be because they're
Oh, suddenly she gives a shit about jails and how clean they are and how safe they are, huh? How about that? She didn't care how clean and safe jails were before. I have. I've been talking about jails and prisoners' rights for a while now. I've been talking about the fact that slavery is still legal in the U.S. right now, to this day, in the form of prisoners. For years, prisoners are legally allowed to be enslaved. And they are enslaved, by the way. But she hasn't cared about this issue this entire time, up until her precious January 6th insurrectionists and seditionists started complaining about it.
Clearly a dangerous place for people to be because they're dying last week. And then these pretrial January 6th defendants have been held months on end being abused as political prisoners of war.
Oh, that's an interesting term to use. Being held months on end? Yeah, because they've been charged with a crime, sedition. Of course they're being held months on end. They're likely going to be held years on end for what they've done. But that last bit, what she said there, that was what I was really interested in. Political prisoners of war. To be a prisoner of war in the U.S. seems to me you would have to consider them part of a foreign country that is at war and enemies with the United States government, right? I don't really see any other way to square this up. If they're prisoners of war, like she said, then they are considered enemy combatants from a foreign country, right? If that's really how they view themselves and how Marjorie Taylor Greene views them, great. She's committing treason by giving aid and comfort to our enemies. I'm speaking as somebody who is like a citizen of the U.S. She's giving aid and comfort to our enemies, to people who consider themselves to be our enemies of the United States. So she's committing treason, and they are waging war against the U.S. government. Seems to me if she really does view it that way, fantastic. We don't have to go through any more of this trouble. Remove her from Congress, put her in prison for treason, and charge the rest with, I don't know, what would you try war criminals with? I have no idea. The thing is, she wants to have her cake and eat it too. She wants to continue to be a member of Congress. She wants to continue to manipulate the U.S. government from the inside, while simultaneously attempting to destroy it. Check this one out. Now that you have that context, you'll understand a little bit of what's being said in the next sections, or the next clips that we're going to watch. Listen to this one. This is early August 2022. She went on this guy's TV show. Gorka, I think is his name.
I have to ask you to connect the dots for us because of that moment at CPAC where you spoke to the January 6th victim, my friend Brandon Stracker. What happened in Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with what he's referring to, at CPAC, which is like Conservative Political Action Conference or whatever. It's where a bunch of right-wing nutcases get together and do crazy nutcase stuff. Anyway, there was a demonstration where a guy was sitting in a faux jail cell and he was wearing like fake jail attire, and Marjorie Taylor Greene like kneels down in front of him and starts praying with him because he's so mistreated or some other crazy nonsense. Anyway, keep listening to this. That's what he's referencing.
You spoke to the January 6th victim, my friend Brandon Stracker. What happened in Mar-a-Lago is directly connected to the victims of January 6th, is it not?
Of course it is.
Wait, what? Okay, so Donald Trump's house being searched for documents that he stole is linked to January 6th defendants? How? I don't understand. None of this is making any sense.
Directly connected. What happened at Mar-a-Lago is the same thing, or even worse. That's what's happening to these January 6th defendants, and they are being persecuted. These are American citizens that, yeah, okay, they got charged with crimes, but their due process rights are being violated, and to be held in jail as long as they have, it's.
Okay, first of all, how are their due process rights being violated? And second, I thought she just called them prisoners of war. That implies that they are enemy combatants against the U.S. government. That doesn't sound like they consider themselves, or she even considers them, U.S. citizens. That's neither here nor there.
Or even worse, that's what's happening to these January 6th.
And one more thing, it sounds like she's saying Donald Trump's house being searched for government documents that he stole, top secret documents that were never supposed to even leave a bunker. It sounds like what she's saying is that's worse than how the January 6th people are being treated. What? God, this woman is strange. Just top to bottom, like everything that she says and does is just odd and makes like no sense. Before we continue, I just wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, there's Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. Or you can check out my Telltale Unfiltered channel. I go through long-form, unhinged sermons from all kinds of people, from Hank Kunneman to Greg Locke to Jehovah's Witnesses. So give it a look. Links are in the description. Okay, now back to the video. Early August 2022, she's on her own podcast and talking about the raid or the search. It's not a raid. It was just a search. The FBI went to search Trump's house. Listen to what she had to say about the search. These are shots from, like, the day that it was happening. It was morning time, I think. Yeah, and there were, like, MAGA people outside Trump's house because I think there's just, like, a perpetual crowd of MAGA people there, basically like a Mecca, going there to worship for the day or something. Anyway, it's just weird. All right, let's hear what she says about it.
And you can see those are the typical peace-loving Trump supporters, Make America Great Again people. Those are the ones that wear the red MAGA hats.
Peace-loving? Is that what you said? Peace-loving? I'm sorry, the only people that believe that MAGA supporters are peace-loving are people who are already living in a delusional fantasy land, the MAGA people themselves. Because anybody else peripheral to them, anybody who has a MAGA fan in their life in any way, an uncle, a cousin, a brother, a whatever, they know MAGA people are not in any way, shape, or form peace-loving. That is like the last term I would ever use to describe these people. They are hate mongers who have a vested interest in hurting people any way they can. And we saw that come to a head on January 6th. They let out their rage, just like what happened on the Night of Glass in Germany during World War II.
Those are the same type of people that went to Washington on January 6th, not the people that were involved in the riot. And we still have many questions about that riot, don't we?
No, we don't, actually. We don't have any questions about that riot. That's pretty well resolved by now. These people have been charged with crimes in large part. They've been sitting in jail this entire time because they committed crimes. That's what happens when you commit crimes. You sit in jail, especially when you commit sedition against the U.S. government like they did in a lot of cases.
Still have many questions about that riot, don't we?
She just lives in a fantasy land, man. I'm telling you. So she goes on Newsmax, Marjorie Taylor Greene does, to talk about all of this stuff and how persecuted her side is. Oh, it's so sad. So she goes on this guy's show, Dan Ball is the guy's name. This is him on the left if you're watching. Listen to what they have to say to each other about this. Early August 2022 is right after the search took place, I believe.
In all of the documents and everything President Trump had at Mar-a-Lago, that isn't anything that the FBI needed to raid his home for. That is
No, we already talked.
Absolutely correct. They didn't. If Trump had just turned the documents over, they wouldn't have raided. They wouldn't have searched. But he didn't. He refused to. So guess what? These are top secret /SCI documents. Secret compartmented information. This is the kind of stuff that isn't supposed to leave a bunker. You're not allowed to talk about it outside of a bunker. It's the kind of stuff that is classified from birth. It is so secret, they can't even talk about what it is outside of a secure bunker. And Donald Trump gathered it all up into a box, walked right out the front door. Not just the door of the bunker, but the door of the White House. Brought the documents to his pool house at Mar-a-Lago and stored them right next to the towels. That is how cavalier Donald Trump was with this stuff. This stuff could get people killed if they knew about it. By no stretch of the imagination should the FBI have even needed to raid. Trump should have never taken it out, but he was given the opportunity to return the documents in March, and he didn't. He returned some of the documents and kept others. Still top secret /SCI, or secret compartmented information. He kept this stuff despite the fact that the FBI wanted it back, or the federal government wanted it back. Then it became necessary to raid. If he had just turned it all in, if he hadn't taken it out in the first place, there never would have been a need to raid. But here we are.
his home for. That is
No, we already talked about that
ridiculous.
earlier. The GSA approved it. The GSA approved the documents, mailed them, sealed them, and sent them to him.
Dude, what? What is he talking? What? No. No to all of that. These people live in a fantasy land and make their own facts up on the spot.
So why would the government give them to him for now the government to come take them back unless they're planting something? Anyway, I got to switch back because we're literally almost out of time.
You know, I find it really interesting that he even suggested such a thing. But if you notice when he suggests that, Marjorie Taylor Greene laughs and nods her head and mouths the word right.
I got to switch back because we're literally almost out of time, Merge. I knew this would happen because you and I are so pissed off about what happened.
So peeved about what happened. That's how that was the energy he came at it with. So Marjorie Taylor Greene obviously agrees that the FBI planted documents on him, and that would be an interesting theory if Donald Trump himself hadn't blown holes in it. Usually when you're dealing with like a press release or when you're dealing with like being on the defensive or the offensive or whatever as a public figure, like on a top level type of thing or whatever, when you're a public figure and you're on the defense, there are a couple different ways to deal with it. The first one and the most important one is to not say a word about anything. Pretend you haven't even heard the accusations, okay? The alternative to that would be acknowledging that it's a problem. If somebody says, I found out that this guy like eats babies in his free time, and assuming that this thing is true, what you're supposed to do is acknowledge it in a cavalier way and make light of it and then redirect. So, sure, I've eaten the occasional baby in my day, but did you know that Christians have been eating babies for centuries? Or specifically, you should be redirecting to one person directly. Like you should be calling one person out directly for something that they did that society would deem to be worse than what you did. That's generally what you're supposed to do when you're dealing with like a PR problem. And we can see that Donald Trump does that, but there's a little twist to this, okay? And this relates back to Marjorie Taylor Greene and what she was saying about this. So listen to Donald Trump's response to being searched. What he should have done was kept completely silent, but we know Donald Trump doesn't know how to do that. So he gets on Truth Social and loses his mind over what's happening with Mar-a-Lago. And he says, number one, it was all declassified. No, it wasn't. Number two, they didn't need to seize anything. Yes, they did, because you didn't turn the documents over when you were supposed to. they could have had it any time they wanted without playing politics and breaking into Mar-a-Lago. They asked for it. You didn't give it to them. It was in secured storage with an additional lock put on as per their request. Actually, they requested the documents back, and he never gave it to them. Okay, so he just offered 2 excuses for his bad behavior when he should have offered 1 at most or said nothing. And then he says they could have had it any time they wanted, and that includes long ago. All they had to do was ask. They did ask. And here's the redirect portion. So he just gave us 3 excuses, and they were piss-poor excuses. The excuses don't need to be true in this type of situation. Donald Trump has a history of, like, lying in all of his excuses, and that's exactly what he did in these excuses. But even though he lied in them, they were still piss-poor excuses. And here's his redirection. The bigger problem is, what are they going to do with the 33 million pages of documents, many of which are classified, that President Obama took to Chicago? Another lie. That never happened. It's fabricated nonsense. 33 million pages adds up to like 7,000 square feet or something like that of paper. Like, how would he even carry that? I don't think it's going to fit on a hand truck. Anyway, the point is, Donald Trump went through the media steps that he was supposed to take, but he completely flubbed it. First of all, his excuses that he offered were implicit admissions that he did in fact have those documents and that they were in fact seized by the FBI. So what Dan Ball and Marjorie Taylor Greene did here just now was make complete fools of themselves. Donald Trump implicitly admitted to having the documents, which means he just completely closed off the branch of the FBI planted it. He erased that as a possibility by admitting what he did. The guy knows the steps to take when dealing with media like this, but he can't control his emotions. He can't control himself. He loses his mind and screams and cries like a baby and makes a huge mess for everybody around him. And now we have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene backing anything that Donald Trump says. Now here's the thing. Donald Trump implicitly admitted that he had the documents, that they were top secret, and that he wasn't supposed to have the documents. By doing that, it should have closed off the possibility of using the defense that the FBI planted stuff. It should have closed that off. But here's the problem. People in Trump land don't give a shit. They don't listen. They don't care. Doesn't matter to them if there are conflicting stories or explanations. All of these things in their mind can be true simultaneously. Donald Trump had the documents. They were classified. Hell, they could even believe the guy sold the documents to Russia. And the FBI planted them on him. All held simultaneously. All of those beliefs. This is a full-blown cult. Is there anything this guy could do? Anything that would lose his supporters, up to and including selling national security information? Would he lose supporters if he did such a thing? I am not convinced he would. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments or on Twitter at TelltaleAtheist. Danielle Hurd, thanks for sharing your personal story. What a wonderful take on paying taxes. Well, thank you for listening. Yeah, that's generally how I view it. I know most of my money is probably going into the pocket of a drone pilot, but I like to pretend that it's going into somebody who needs it desperately. Captain Gars, I'm almost tempted to say that Greene needs help, but some part of me thinks she knows exactly what she's doing and is doing so maliciously. It's hard to tell with Greene. I think Greene believes her own lies. I think she really does. I think she's a true believer. She's got what's called an ends justify the means mentality, which means she is willing to lie, cheat, manipulate, steal, whatever it takes to accomplish her goals. This is the kind of thing you find with cults regularly. Every cult has a different name for this. Jehovah's Witnesses call it theocratic warfare. Scientology calls it fair gaming. Whatever it takes to accomplish your goals is worth it. And that is one of the hallmarks of Marjorie Taylor Greene's whole personality. An us versus them and an ends justify the means mentality. That's what it's all about with this woman. So I think she's a true believer, honestly. I really do. I think she's a true believer. But I think she's also a complete nutcase and willing to do anything to hurt people.